The file begins. By 2026, the digital tomb of FTX was a well-documented archaeological site. The stench of its decay still clung to the portfolios and reputations of those who touched it. And Kevin O'Liri had touched it with both hands. He was no longer just an investor. He was an artifact of the collapse, a paid evangelist for a hollow church. The public saw him on screen, attempting to recast his role from promoter to spurned victim. A difficult performance. The reputational shrapnel was embedded too deep. He spoke of his lost millions, but the real cost was measured in a currency he valued more than dollars. Pause trust. The post-mortem audit of his judgment had begun, and the initial findings were damning. What the world didn't know was the true nature of his contract, or the warnings he chose to ignore. This was not the anatomy of Mr. Wonderful. That persona was built on a foundation of cold, hard numbers and brutal honesty, a mask of calculated wisdom. He was the oracle in the dark suit, the man who told starry-eyed entrepreneurs their baby was ugly. He preached diversification. He demanded proof of cash flow. He was the patron saint of risk mitigation. And then came the FTX gospel. His followers, the ones who bought his ETFs and watched his every move, experienced a violent cognitive dissonance. The man who warned against speculative nonsense was now the face of it. The initial reaction was disbelief. A mistake, a misquote. But the evidence mounted like concrete bags, one on top of the other, until the sheer weight of it crushed the carefully constructed image. The shock curdled into something else. Pause. Betrayal. The inventory of sins began. Whispers from the digital crypt, once sealed by non-disclosure agreements, started to leak like toxins into the groundwater. The core allegation was simple and brutal. Pause. O'Liri, the Grand Inquisitor of business plans, had performed a due diligence process that was little more than theater. Testimony suggested his team flagged dozens of red flags within FTX's labyrinthine structure. They saw the phantom assets. They questioned the non-existent board. It was all there, in memos that now read like a pre-written obituary for his reputation. But the deal was intoxicating. The payout, a reported $15 million, wasn't just a fee. It was a muzzle. The true fatal error wasn't ignorance. It was the deliberate act of looking away. A source from his inner circle would later describe his justification not as a financial calculation, but as a charismatic override. He believed in the founder, not the fundamentals. The man who built an empire on numbers was seduced by a story. This was the anatomy of his fall. Then, in the cold autumn of 2025, the machine of institutional justice rendered its verdict. The claims against him were dismissed. A legal victory, a clean slate, printed on the thinnest paper imaginable. For the courts, the case was closed. But a legal dismissal is not an acquittal in the court of legacy. It is a technicality, a procedural sidestep. It meant the plaintiffs failed to build a cage of legal precedent strong enough to hold him. It did not mean he was innocent. The questions left unanswered echoed louder than any gavel. Did you know? Did you suspect? Why did the man who preached caution sell his flock a ticket on a sinking ship? The dismissal was a fortress built by lawyers, but its walls were glass. Everyone could see the man inside, now alone with his reputation. He was legally shielded, but reputationally, he was naked. The price of his freedom was the permanent asterisk next to his name. A footnote in his own biography detailing the day Mr. Wonderful was proven to be pause wonderfully fallible. Fallibility is a human trait. Hubris is a poison for kings. For pause. Kevin O'Leary, the line between them blurred in the bright, disorienting glare of cryptocurrency. This was his anatomy of a fall. The man who built an empire on the gospel of diversification suddenly became a true believer in a single digital messiah. He heard the siren song of the new gold rush. He ignored the creaking timbers of the ship. The pursuit of rapid astronomical gains is a fever. It clouds judgment. It makes old wise men look like naive fools at the casino table. He wasn't investing, he was evangelizing. He sold not a stock, but a story. A story of a future where the old rules, his rules, no longer applied. This was the Rokava Shaiba, the fatal mistake. Believing that his Midas touch could turn digital ether into solid gold without getting his own hands paws dirty. And then came the silence. The digital empire of FTX crumbled into a $10 billion crater, and in that void, a legacy was redefined. This is the post-mortem audit of Pause Mr. Wonderful. The $15 million he was paid to be a spokesman was not an investment. It was the price of his credibility. The man who preached fiscal prudence to thousands of entrepreneurs became the paid face of a financial black hole. Every lecture on cash flow, every sermon on due diligence now echoes with the hollow ring of hypocrisy. The stain of FTX is not a footnote. It is the new title of his biography, an indelible mark that all the money in his carefully diversified portfolio cannot erase. His fate is no longer to be the oracle of wealth. It is to be the cautionary tale. A bitter testament to the fact that in the final accounting, reputation is the only currency that cannot be pause repurchased.